As we keep hearing news about Ben and Jennifer's imminent divorce, I, like all of you, have been glued to my computer trying to see, okay, what's the latest? What's going on? Are they working things out? Are they going to get divorced? We see all the times that they're going out without each other. We study them closely. And by the way, this air kiss that we see that they shared outside of one of Ben's kids' school, that told me right there that the relationship, if it's not completely over, the thrill is gone. The romantic part is gone. Look at how they kiss. When I saw the photo, it looked weird enough, but when you look at the video, when you see the video of that kiss, they basically crash into each other. It's awkward. It's really quick. He pats her on the back. This is how you greet your neighbor's wife. Hi, Mrs. Lopez, how are you doing today? I can see your tomatoes are growing really nice. I'm gonna have to steal your gardener because he's doing a really good job. I just keep killing my plants. Tell George I'll see him on the golf course. And it's, it just seems so impersonal. It seems like when two people have agreed to co-parent the kids, but that they're no longer together, he seems more warm and at ease when he's with his ex-wife, Jen Garner. But that's for another video. I'm going to do another video on this. But anyway, as I'm watching all this footage of Jennifer and Ben and their awkward interaction, one thing that is a constant and has been a constant in the life of Jennifer for the last few years is the presence of Benny Medina. Benny Medina is her manager and apparently her good friend, her best friend. Because the man is everywhere. He was at the graduation for one of the kids. He goes to the kids' recitals. He goes to all the events. As her manager, I expect him to be at premieres and things of that nature. But even little outings like these that are strictly family, he's there. When Ben and JLo eloped in Las Vegas, there weren't a lot of people there. But one of the people that was mentioned that was at that ceremony, it was Benny Medina. As a matter of fact, the other day, as I was doing research for another video, I read that when Jennifer went on her honeymoon with Chris Judd, her second husband, Benny went with them. I mean, what is this? What is going on? Is Benny Medina like her emotional support pet? It just seems very strange. And I know that out here in Hollywood, there's a lot of people who see their manager and their publicist as their family, but this is on another level. And as I'm looking at all these ways in which Benny Medina is this ubiquitous presence in JLo's life, it just hit me the other day. Didn't JLo sue Benny that one time? She fired him and then she sued him. A lot of people don't remember this, but I remember pretty much everything. So we're going to explore this episode. What is it that caused this rupture between these seemingly inseparable friends? And then I remembered. It was Ben. It was Ben. So let's explore this episode in the life and loves of Jennifer Lopez and what happened that one time that she fired and sued her good friend Benny Medina. And before we go, I just want to invite you to click that subscribe button. I would love to have you here as I talk about topics such as these. Now let's get into the video. Now we don't talk too much about Benny Medina outside of the context of JLo, except for the fact that it is well known that he was the inspiration for the show The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. The show was loosely based on his life. He changed a lot of aspects of it, but this rags to riches, from the hood to a life of luxury, is actually based on his real life. Benny Medina was born on January 24th, 1958, so that makes him 66 years old. I didn't know he was that old. He looks pretty good. He was born in East LA from a very impoverished background. His mom died when he was very young, and then his father abandoned him and his siblings, and he ended up going from a series of foster homes to group homes that he kept running away from. Eventually, his aunt decided to take in Benny and his siblings, and that gave him kind of a more stable environment. While he was living with his aunt, he still, because it was the same impoverished environment where he was born, he was dealing drugs at one point, but then he met a kid. And this was a kid who came from a nice background. He lived in Beverly Hills. And they became such good friends that this kid took him into his home and brought him into the family home. And they had a converted garage. And if you know anything about Beverly Hills and Bel Airs and these nice neighborhoods around here, a converted garage here is very different from a regular converted garage. It seems like it was a nice apartment. And they liked Benny, so they let him stay there. Because he lived in Beverly Hills, he was able to enroll in Beverly Hills High, which is the public school in Beverly Hills. And fun fact, this is the school that the show Beverly Hills 90210 was based on. So he goes to this school and he met this guy, and his name was Kerry Gordy. And if that name sounds familiar, yes, he was actually the son of Berry Gordy, the founder of Motown Records. And he became really close friends with his son Kerry. So much so that after they graduated high school, they formed a little singing group. That didn't really go anywhere. But because of his relationship with Kerry, Barry took Benny under his wing and became a mentor to him and started introducing him to the music world. And Benny went full on into this mentorship. He just soaked up as much as he could from his mentor. And as a result of everything he learned, at the tender age of 24, Benny was named head of A&R at Motown Records. Now, A&R stands for Artists and Repertoire. And what these people do is that not only do they recruit new artists, but they also work really closely with artists that are represented by the record label. During his time at Motown, he wrote and produced songs for artists such as The Temptations, Smokey Robinson, Rick James, and Tina Marie. I had no idea that little Benny Medina, who just seems like J-Lo's little companion, was doing such great things. After working for Motown for several years, he moved on to Warner Brothers Records. And there, he worked with, listen to this list of artists. He worked with Ray Charles, Babyface, Prince, Chaka Khan, Madonna, Paul Simon, Fleetwood Mac, Naughty by Nature, Queen Latifah, De La Soul, Biz Markie, among others. Benny, I did not know you had it like that, friend. That man was really connected. And it makes me wonder what happened. That he went from producing for some of the biggest artists in the world to becoming J-Lo's companion. After leaving Warner Brothers, Benny and his friend Jeff Pollock formed the Medina Pollock Entertainment Group, which grew into a full-service management and production company. And among some of the projects that they worked on were the movies Booty Call and Made in Manhattan, J-Lo's big movie. Now, he didn't just manage J-Lo's career. I was surprised to find out that he had also managed Tyra Banks, P. Diddy, and Mariah Carey.
Mit J-Lo?
Die kenne ich nicht.
Ups.
But the artist that he has managed the longest and has stayed with the closest is Jennifer Lopez. They have been really good friends. They have been close friends. So you ask yourself, what could have caused these two friends to part ways in such a nasty manner in 2003? And they were not in each other's life until 2008 when they patched things up. But what could have caused this? Several weeks ago when I made another J-Lo video, I was telling you that all these stories that are coming out about Jennifer being a diva and being demanding and being hard to work with are not new. These have been rumors that have been persisting for a really long time. And the time when they really took off was around 2002, when Jennifer and Ben Affleck got together. And this union between these two stars that were on the rise just launched them into the stratosphere, and they became a supernova couple. And so everybody started digging into, okay, what have we heard about them? What is it about them? And these stories started coming out about Jennifer being difficult to work with, having ridiculous demands about the things that she wants, putting them in her rider, that when she goes to a place, she wants everything white. White curtains, white sofas with white pillows and white candles and white flowers everywhere. And demanding that there's certain beverages that have to be the perfect temperature and there has to be this number of ice cubes in it. These stories started coming out. And Ben, who at the time had just finished working with J-Lo for the first time, He was so shocked that this woman that he had been hearing so many stories about her being demanding and being a diva, that's not the person he met on set. He met somebody who was professional, who was kind, who wasn't making any demands of anybody, who was just the sweetest person. And so he was confused. He couldn't understand, why are they writing these stories about you? And I remember he even talked about this in an interview. He said, why are they saying all these things about you that are not true? And JLo said, I don't know. I try to be nice. I'm the same person you met. I don't know. And so Ben started whispering in her ear and saying to her, I don't know what's going on. All these stories have been persistent about you. And if these stories continue, you're going to have it very difficult finding work in this industry. You're going to have a hard time booking jobs if these rumors persist. They have to be coming from somewhere. Now, I believe that it is possible that there may have been some of those stories that were exaggerated about Bennifer. But when so many people are telling you the same story in different ways, you better believe it is true. If you look at the TikToks that are coming out lately, you are hearing people giving first-hand accounts of their interactions with Bennifer and the instructions that they received from people that are around Bennifer. Back in 2002, there was no social media. And when people would give these stories to the press, it was under the cover of anonymity. Nowadays with TikTok, people will show their faces and said, yes, I was a waitress at the time when Bennifer came. Yes, I was working at a radio station when Bennifer came for an interview. Yes, my dad worked for a chauffeur company and he refused to drive her because of this and this and these stories that he told me. All these people can't be making this stuff up, especially by showing their faces and naming the stores and the places where they used to work, because they're opening themselves up to a defamation lawsuit. But these people are showing their faces because I believe that they are telling the truth. And if all these people are telling the truth, then there was truth to what was being said. I remember that one of the stories that were told on TikTok was this person who worked at a radio station. And she noticed that when Bennifer was there greeting and taking pictures with all the people who were there, when it was the fans or other low-level people, she was very uninterested. She didn't even make eye contact with them. She didn't even acknowledge them or talk to them. She would take the picture, she would smile for the picture, and then just move on to the next person. But when the DJs, the people who are in charge of playing the music and making sure that her songs become hits, when they approached her to take photos with her, oh, it was a different story. She was engaging and she was smiling with them and telling jokes and being very personal with them. So this is something that JLo can turn on and turn off. She code switches. When she's talking to people that she feels can do nothing for her, she treats them like nothing. But when she's in the presence of the real talent, the people that she's interested in having some kind of a rapport with, then it changes. Then she becomes warm and friendly, JLo. That is how you find that her co-stars, at least most of them, including Ben, will have glowing reviews of working with her. They'll say she was nothing like people say. She wasn't a diva. She wasn't mean. She was kind. She was loving. She was professional. She was there when we needed her. So it's no surprise that Ben had a completely different experience than the people who were talking about how difficult she was to work with. So when he approached her and he said, where are these stories come from? Instead of Bennifer being honest and saying, well, maybe I like things to be a particular way and I want things to be nice, but I don't mean it. Instead of saying that, it appears, and there were articles that were written to support this idea, that Bennifer threw Benny under the bus. That when Ben suggested to her, is it possible that your team, that Benny, is making these ridiculous demands behind your back? And so people are assuming that these orders are coming from you? Couldn't that be the case? Instead of Jen standing up and telling the truth, she went along with that theory. And she said, well, yeah, maybe. Maybe Benny went and said these things that I never told him to say to anybody. And it was at that point that it is believed that Ben said to Bennifer, you need to fire him. You need to get rid of him. This man is ruining your career. You could be going further. Who knows how many roles you have been passed on that you could have done a great job because people assume that you are going to be difficult to work with. You cannot have a successful career with somebody that is sabotaging it behind your back. So get rid of Benny, hire a new manager, have a new agent, have a new PR team, because otherwise your career is going to suffer. And instead of Jennifer standing by this friend, this person who guided her career to where it was at that point. At that point, J-Lo was at her peak. And it wasn't without the help of Benny. But instead of helping her friend, instead of standing up for him and saying, whoa, 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 okay, I have to confess. Yes, sometimes I can be a little demanding. Instead of doing that, in order to stay this sweet, loving, professional person in the eyes of Ben, she threw her friend under the bus. She fired him, and then she sued him. She accused him of stealing from her. Because I guess when she fired him, Benny said, how dare you do that? You know damn well that I'm not the one who's doing these demands. You know that when I make these demands, it's on your behalf. Why don't you tell the truth? It was nasty. It was horrible. There were articles that were written. There was this particular article on the New York Post that was very scathing. That was clearly coming from her camp to make Benny look as bad as possible. They were saying that he was the one who have these extravagant demands and that he was passing them off as if they were from her. That everybody knows that Benny loves the high life and he lives in a mansion, in a $1 million mansion. Why wouldn't he? The man has worked with some of the biggest artists in the world. Yeah, the guy has made some good money, and where should he live? Back in East LA? In the poor neighborhood where he came from? Where does J-Lo live? If we're going to use that as the metric, if we're going to say that if you live in a nice house and you go to nice flashy events, that makes you a diva, what do we say about J-Lo? What do we say about any other person in Hollywood? They even brought out his humble beginnings as a way of saying, see, these poor people, they get a taste of the good life and they just can't stop themselves. That was really nasty. Really nasty. Especially knowing that J-Lo's whole personality, I'm Jenny from the block. I used to have a little, now I have a lot. That's her whole personality. I'm J-Lo from the Bronx. And look at me now. For her to use that against him, to prove that he's the one who's making all these demands, nasty work. And why? How would that benefit Benny? How would that benefit Benny to say Jennifer wants a room where everything is white pillows and white curtains and candles and flowers? If that's her room, how does he benefit from that? How does he benefit by telling the waiter the water has to be this temperature and there can only be 7 cubes of ice? If there are 8 or 6, you have to send it back. How does that benefit him if it's done on her behalf? All these things tell me that it was really J-Lo behind the demands, but because she was so obsessed with Ben Affleck and she wanted to maintain that look of innocence of herself in his eyes, she decided that it was more profitable to humiliate her friend who was there with her when she had nothing than to come clean and tell him, yeah, I can be demanding. But then there were other articles. There was another article written by, I think it was Entertainment Weekly, where you can clearly see that it was Benny's camp who put out that article, where he's saying, I'm not the one who was making all these demands. It was her. I was just doing her bidding. Anyway, this was really, really nasty. And for what? For what, J-Lo? Ben still didn't marry you back then. He still left you. And here we are 20 years later, on what seems like the brink of the divorce. I guess after all that time that she was denying, oh no, I'm not the diva. I'm humble. I'm Jenny from the Bronx. I don't make all these ridiculous demands. That's not me. I guess after getting married and seeing firsthand that she really was the diva. I often wonder what Ben feels like when he hears especially the stories of waiters and service people who Ben tipped generously. And then after Ben and her walked away, Jennifer kind of sneaked back, took the tip that Ben gave them, and replaced it with some like $5 or $10 after he had left them with $1,000. I wonder, did she keep the money? I don't think she brought it back to Ben. I think she kept it. But I wonder, now that these stories are coming out, if Ben didn't know about this, if that contributed to his decision to move out of the house and be like, I can't do this. I really thought that she was different. In 2008, after they had not spoken for like 5 years, and this was way after her and Ben had broken up. I believe this was at that time that she was still married to Mark Anthony. Her and Benny got back together. Benny became the godfather to her children, I understand. And yeah, they're back to being friends. Interestingly enough, when I found out that he had managed Mariah Carey, it says that he managed Mariah from 2003 to 2008. Meaning that he started managing her the year after him and J-Lo went their separate ways. And then, I guess, Mariah fired him when he went back to representing J-Lo. I don't know. It's all a mess. But yeah, that was that time when J-Lo threw her best friend under the bus to keep a man that wouldn't even marry her. And 20 years later, he's already left the house and is getting ready to divorce her. Never throw your friends under the bus for a potential romantic relationship. Because your friends who were there with you before you had everything that you have now, before you were everything that you are now, those friends that knew you way back then are going to be with you when everything falls apart. But would that romantic relationship be there? If you have a good friend, keep that friend. Because men come and go, but true friends, they stay forever. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like. Please subscribe to my channel if you would like to. Please share this video. It would help my channel grow. Please leave a comment. Let me know what you think about what I just said. Thank you so much for watching. Please watch other videos that I have made while you are here. And hopefully, I will see you in the next one.